All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Word with Ty Brownlow. I am your host, Ty Brownlow. And remember, no one is worthless. No story is worthless. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very, very special guest for you. A couple of words about my guest. Advocate, corporate, intellectual property. That means, what you create, what you come up with, y'all. Some of y'all like, I don't know what that means. That's what that means. And financial, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Miss Latoya Cooper.
Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here. Ty, thank you so much for sharing your platform, and I'm excited about our conversation today.
Thank you. Actually, I'm excited about our platform. Well, first and foremost, I'm excited to have you here, and I, as well, am excited about the conversation we're going to have today because, we have quite a few, I'm not going to say misunderstandings or misconceptions, when it comes to, being a creative, and especially like a music creator. So you are the CEO and the founder of Music Meets the Boardroom. Can you tell us, a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. That is correct. I am the founder. I say the visionary behind the platform. And I created Music Meets the Boardroom to help artists, one, to learn more about their gift, understand their gift more, how they should be using their gift, right? And then also empowering artists to build legacy around their gift, to shift and, how can I say this? Accept their full being, not just as a creative, but also as a born entrepreneur. And what does that look like, right? And I'm just excited about the mission. I just love what I do. As you can clearly say, I'm excited about what I do. And I'm looking forward to this journey of just impact and just being impactful along the way and just seeing the outcome of artists just really just shifting the narrative in which we show up in the world moving forward.
Okay, all right. So now, you know what? That's very key that you say shifting the narrative of, how you appear, pretty much going forward in the world. Now, in this day and age, everything is digital now, and, we're going to talk about the music industry now versus years prior or what have you. But you mentioned something about legacy. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So over the years, as we know, artists have these beautiful careers or the illusion of those careers. And they get to some point where they're like, I'm taking off the blanket or whatever, and I'm going to let people know what's really going on here. And then we find out that they don't own anything. And that the investors' children are the ones who are reaping the benefit of their hard work, right? A perfect example of that would be kind of the situation going on with Anita Baker right now.
Ooh.
Timeless music that is just, every time you hear it, it never gets old, 35 plus years, and come to find out she doesn't own her masters to all that music. 35 years later, she's fighting for her masters. And guess what? Those investors' children are the ones who are going to reap the benefit of her hard work. And part of my mission is to educate artists on what they hold, their source. Their source is not only a light and a gift, but it's also a product and service. Artists have what is called like built-in intellectual property, intangible intellectual property assets. And we don't know that because you can't touch it. You can't see it like this mouse, right? But this can be art and this can be worth a lot of money, but we don't know that until someone sees the vision behind it and takes it and makes money. And then we're like, wait, hold up. Why am I didn't see that. I didn't see that possibility. And so when we start to educate artists about what intellectual property is and what it looks like and how you use it, then they can start to maneuver in a way where they're able to kind of protect it and make sure that they own it, or at least a part of it, as they're walking through their journey.
Okay, so how can your platform actually offer, indie artists development and coming up with not just intellectual property, but property that will be very beneficial to them in the long run, and which can possibly open doors. Because let's just keep it real, there's a big difference between you writing a song and putting it, on your Audio Mac or SoundCloud or what have you. And it's no offense to those, like platforms or what have you, but it's a big difference when you just want to load up your song and put it on there versus, hey, you know what? I really want, I really want to test the waters. I really want to see what I'm worth out here in the music industry, so I'm going to put it all together and just put it on the line. Totally big difference. So what is it that, how can your platform help those types of artists? Hey, you know what? I really got something.
Right. Several different ways. One is helping the artist build out a legit business and making sure they have the elements in place where they are going to be able to maneuver in a space where they can make bigger amounts of money, right? So if you don't have certain paperwork in place, and you go and you say you want your music in a commercial, or you want licensing and opportunities and things like that. Mm-hmm. If you haven't taken the proper steps prior to make sure your music is, got the data, the correct data or the correct ownership, paperwork and things like that, then it really shuts you off to those opportunities, because they're going to want to know who owns what, who signed off on what. They want to make sure they avoid legal issues and problems as well. So it's important for the artist to operate their business like an actual legit business, so they can play in the sandbox or in the boardroom with the people who got the money. Right. One. That's just one example.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Now, I'm just thinking about a couple of years ago, I want to say Jordan Peele used a sample to a song, and the originator of the song, when the song first came out, didn't take advantage of certain royalties and things of that nature. And the song blew up, but they never got paid for it. So now it's years later, they're reusing the song, and now he's trying to reap the benefits, or the artist is trying to reap the benefits afterwards. Now, that can possibly help them out in the long run. So I think that's very key, because, if you don't know what it is you're supposed to be doing, and don't get me wrong, and I think this goes into the next question I'm going to ask, sometimes, a lot of artists fall short in a certain type of area, and usually that area is the paperwork, because most artists that I know of, they just feel, hey, you know what? I'm going to come up with this music. I'm going to write this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. But which is great. But on the other hand, you need to know the business side, because you also want to market yourself, put yourself out there. You don't want anybody taking your intellectual property and making it their own, and now, you're in a court battle, and that has constantly happened. And I'm pretty sure that's happening right now as we speak. So, in your opinion, where do you think, most artists fall short? Besides paperwork or what have you, where do most indie artists fall short before they even, get a chance to get into the board?
Two things. One, actually believing for what it is that they want. Oftentimes, as artists will say, well, I want this in my career. I want to do this in my career, but we don't really believe it. And as a result, we don't really walk it. And the second part is that very thing, moving right now as though it already exists. So let me give you an example. This is just a blanket example. We hear a lot of people say, I want to be a millionaire, right?
Yes.
So are you just going to sit around and just hope that million falls in your lap? And then when you get it, what you going to do with it? Right? If you really want to manifest that, start operating now like you already got that $1 million. What would somebody do who has $1 million? They would have multiple bank accounts, for taxes and for, whatever. They would start setting it up now. There's banks you can go to that don't charge you nothing to open up these accounts. Manifest this, open up the space for this to happen for you. And as artists, one, we don't truly believe it. And then we assume that we're starting out and no one's watching us. Kind of going back to your previous question, we assume people are not watching us and that we don't have to start putting things in place now for the glow up, right? And then what happens is when we're starting out, people come behind and copyright and trademark our names. We assume that we're not big enough for anybody to care. But in reality, you're the perfect person to target, because the assumption is you don't know what you're doing. You're not going to fight back, and you're not even going to know that they took your stuff behind your back. But start moving right now for what it is that you want, so that actually shows up for you right soon.
Okay. All right. So case in point, oh God, I can't think of the name of the group or whatever, but there was a group, I don't know if they were a blues group or a rock group or what have you, but they had a name, and there was a lady, she was a performer, she had the name.
Yes. Right? I know who you're talking about, because I know her personally.
Okay, well,
I know her personally very well.
But, in a situation like that,
yes, that's a perfect example. She had a stage name. She had her own brand and reputation that she had been building for 20-25 years. And this big brand came and trademarked her name behind her back. But let me share with you, these big companies know the process. They know what they can get away with. So what they did, I'm gonna tell you what they did, because it's super easy to figure this out. They saw this name. They wanted this name. They go and Google it. Oh, this person's using this name. Let's go see if this person has trademarked the name. Oh, the person has not trademarked the name. Put the paperwork in. After they put the paperwork in, the person who originally used the name, once it gets to a certain point, the person has 30 days. I can't remember the exact stage, but once it gets through a certain point where the trademark office is going to approve it, they have 30 days to protest. But if you don't know, if no one tells you, or no attorneys reach out to you and say anything, or if, say, attorneys reach out and bring it up, but you don't really understand the language, you just delete the emails and stuff. If you don't protest that in 30 days, it automatically becomes the ownership of the person who submitted the application. At that point, now it's really difficult to get that back. You really can't. The only thing you can do is really wait until that name expires. I think every 10 plus years or something, they have to reissue some things. But who's likely going to do that for such a valuable name? Let me give you another example of someone who did something very genius in this regard. I'm not a big sports person, but the Chiefs, is the Indian Chiefs or football?
Kansas City Chiefs.
Is that the one, the football team where they wanted to change the name? The Redskins.
Oh yes, the Washington football team. They changed the name to yes. Oh well.
Did they finally change it?
No, it's still called the Washington football team.
Well, you know why? Because someone was very genius and went and trademarked 90, almost 100 different names that possible they could change it to. So when they went to go change it, they couldn't change it because they would have to pay that person a licensing fee to use any of the names related to that football team. So they just didn't change it.
God, that is
Genius. Because they knew it was coming.
I know you want to change it. Just go ahead and change it. I mean, but you got to pay for it.
Exactly.
Ooh,
and this happens to artists all the time. We hear artists talk about how they don't own their masters, they don't own their trademark, because the investors, they know this process, and so they go out and they copyright and they trademark, and they're the owners of that intellectual property that pays over and over. And an intellectual property that is called intangible property is not easily measurable, so there's no cap on what it can make. And that's why intellectual property is so valuable, because it can make millions, it can make billions, it can make trillions.
Wow. People, hold on to your thoughts and ideas. Get them trademarked, get them copyrighted. Do whatever it is you feel you have to do. If you have something that is yours, I don't care if you think it's valuable or not, still go through the process, get your name trademarked, get your product copy, trademark, or your writings copywritten or what have you, because as we're just sitting here saying, we just came up with two, examples. There's plenty of more.
Oh, there's so many stories out there, and it's happening every single day. Even with the Joe Budden situation going on with, have you been following that?
That's right. He fired two of his people from his podcast, correct?
Yes. Go watch the interview that Maul and the other gentleman just did. And you'll hear the similar conversations of like where contracts weren't taking place or they did sign in mixing friendship with business. That's a whole nother conversation. I have this conversation with artists all the time. There's no friendship in business. It's relationships. It's just business. It's not personal. It's just business.
Well, I'm going to take it a step further. And I was having this talk just the other day, and I believe it's going to get to the point where even like having these certain types of podcasts, you're going to have to start signing waivers as if it's like a regular TV show that you're on, just because of, intellectual property. Two, in case you may have a guest on, that may say some things that, the publicist or what have you may not want them to say, and they may want that taken out. You may want it, in or what have you. And now that becomes an issue, So trust me, I've been watching that. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, it's a media release, and a lot of people are using that.
Yeah.
But with the podcast, like people are starting them up, and we don't really think about that because we're collaborating and things like that. But you're absolutely right. What if there's an interview that's like an interview that really hits home? Let's say you get 1 million views on it, and then the guest comes back and say, "I want it taken down."
That happens.
What do you do?
Happens. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That happens. So, what do you do in situations like that? So I think, this ties into the next question I'm about to ask. I'm going to say, I feel as if the pandemic did, some great things. It really did open up a lot of people to start their own podcasts and, make their own sound and their own voice. But at the same time, with everything new, there's going to come a point where they're going to put a cap on it. Like, okay, look, you can do this, but X, Y, and Z has to happen for it to really be, considered a top podcast that you're making money off of, or something of that nature. So it's coming. I'm just waiting for it to happen. But let me ask. So, in your opinion, like, do you feel as if like indie artists are more at a advantage now, more so than 5-10 years ago? And I'm just using like Chance the Rapper as a point, because I just remember when like the whole indie game got real, start really taking off in like the mid 2000s or what have you, and then like by the time like 2010, 2015, boom, like it was just all kinds of artists are out here now. So like, are artists at more of an advantage now, do you think, more so than like 5 or 10 years ago? And why?
Absolutely. And the industry is starting to notice it. I don't know if they noticed it, like you said, several years ago, but their actions were not saying that. But their actions now are saying, hey, this indie artist game is about to take over the industry. Yeah. You got the Grammys who are making those changes. They made this announcement, like they made these drastic changes. Some of them, not so much when you start to read the intricate details, but they were forced to start opening up some things a little bit and making it a little bit more fair in other areas that traditionally were not there. And we're going to continue to see this shift. And with the pandemic, it just really changed the game, and it opened up the playing field for indie artists. It's going to continue to grow. Labels really are going to have to change their model in many ways, because at this point, there's no reason to sign with the label unless you just simply want to be famous or be extremely, extremely rich, but you can still be rich and wealthy and have a good living and own all your intellectual property. So why would I sign with you? And then on top of that, I have to have a certain amount of streams, or I have to have built out a certain point before you will even entertain me. By that point, I don't need you. You know what I mean? I've done the hard work.
Okay, so let's just stop it right there. Let's park it right there, okay? Because you just hit on it, all right? I've been talking about this. So why do I really need you? I can do it. I mean, any and everything I need to do, I can really do. That's what social media is for. Like, that's what, man, TikTok is putting some of these record companies right out of business.
Yep.
Some of these people aren't even, look, social media is the distribution center. Mm-hmm. 9 times out of 10, man, that's all we're really talking about. Who can hear and listen to my music?
Mm-hmm. Well, the labels are being very strategic about how they make up for the shifts and changes. If you notice, like on social media, how you have the reels and you have the music that's trending and things like that, it's often artists that are signed. So they have agreements with the social media companies to push some of this music forward. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, well, you know what? I didn't notice it until you just said it, and now I'm just thinking about certain things. I'm like,
right. So you use this particular song and you're going to get more views and you're going to get more interaction, which if you look at the consistency of who those songs are, they're usually songs by, labels, major labels. So there's some things that's going on in the back end for these labels to still stay relevant and to keep their artists in the forefront, even though we are really craving more of the indie artist kind of experience.
Yes,
but they're working the game.
Well, look, all my indie artists, creatives, look, keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep making that music, keep making that art, keep creating, just keep creating. All right, and the world is yours now, and you don't have to settle for yes from this person or that person. That is pretty much what Latoya Cooper just said. Look, we live in a world now where the only reason you're going to a label is to be rich, but you can still have all those things if you just put a little bit more work into it. And on top of that, you get to create and keep your intellectual property. That is key. That is key. I don't care if it's a one-hit wonder. It's your one-hit wonder. Mm-hmm. Okay? And not the labels. All right? Trust me. All right. So let me ask, what is one thing you want artists to take from your platform? Like an indie artist comes, they sign up for music Boardroom, they go through. What is one thing you hope they, take from your platform?
Find a mission that is true to themselves and their gift. Mm-hmm. And I'm always talking about truly believing in themselves and seeing themselves as the CEO that they're meant to be, and to create that business, once again, changing that narrative. And that's what I hope to inspire artists to do. And I'm seeing it happen. And I am just in love with the artists, what they're doing, that come through Music Boardroom. They're building the foundation for their empires. They're not just building art, they're building a brand. They have merch, they have teams. They're building out the foundation. They're getting legit. They're trademarking their names. They're setting up their LLCs. They have stores. They have, and I'm watching it and I'm just like, go be unapologetic about it and let's get it done.
Well, I mean, and, at the end of the day, you are a business, mm-hmm. and it has to be much more than just music sometimes. Sometimes it has to be music with merch, sometimes it has to be music, merch, and maybe a free download to this concert that I'm going to do virtually, like you have there's always different ways to, recreate the game, at the end of the day, you're still trying to get paid. You're still trying to get your voice out there. You're still trying to get your name out there. And as you said, it's all about being a brand. So mm-hmm. that's the first thing people notice when they see you or your logo or whatever it is that represents you.
Right. And there's one thing, if I may share, that I would love to see a shift generally mm-hmm. as artists and even just as creators is owning your content. Owning your content is so important. And I would love to see, I can't wait till the day I start to see a shift where people start pushing people over to their websites where they can control that conversation and that narrative and what's happening to their content and how their content is treated, and trusting that their fans are going to follow them, that their fans are going to purchase off their website, so people, creatives in general, can just start reaping 100% of their benefit versus having to follow the guidelines of these third-party platforms. That's muting people, that's, taking a large percentage of their art, like Spotify. They'll be nice. I can't wait till that day happens.
Well, no, and that is true. And you find more artists now, and even people even I do it now. I mean, even though my show is on all social media platforms, I do direct people to the website. Like, yay, go to the website, watch it on the website, do this on the website. But, as you said, that's your platform to do whatever it is you want to do, man. And it's 100% you, and you display whatever it is. And as you said, you just trust the masses to come and, show up. That's it. That's all. All right. So, man, let's shift gears just a little bit here. Let's talk about Miss Latoya Cooper just for a second. All right. Okay.
All right.
Now, what is your background in music? Because I hear you have a background in music. Let's talk about your background.
Sure. So I started singing at 3, and I was an entrepreneur out the womb. I was a singing entrepreneur, and I didn't even know it. I remember being 12 years old and setting up gigs. My parents didn't help me or anything. I would just pick up the phone, or I'd see somebody, I may be out at an event or something, and I'm like, hey, do you need a singer next year? And I would set up my own stuff, and I would just tell my parents where to take me, and they would take me. And it was just easy for me. And so I was able to do all that type of thing up until I was 19 years old. And I had a chance. I was college queen. I entered a pageant just because I wanted to sing, because where I come from, there's no music really seen. So I got creative and started entering pageants so I could just sing. And I started winning these pageants, and I wasn't trying to. And I found myself at Miss Oklahoma at 19 years old, which is one of the most top competitive pageants in the country, in the Miss America system, and walked away with top talent my very first year. And had that really great experience. And I ended up putting everything down because I started feeling the social pressure of, yes, Latoya, you're talented. This is all great, but you got to go to college and get that degree and go get a 9-to-5 and all this stuff. And I fell for the game. And 4 degrees later, 10 years of suffering with depression. And I had a moment where I had a come to Jesus moment where I'm like, okay, I clearly can't do this. What do I need to do? Just pull this weight off of me, And God told me to sing again. And so I started singing again after, struggling with those 10 years of depression and just finding my way. And I found myself creating music, releasing music, learning the business, and just falling in love with the process, and getting to this point which God has shifted me once again into more of the teaching and the advocacy part of music, which I love. And I've found a clear mission within that, because when I was singing, God kept telling me to sing, but he never gave me the reason why. And now I realize why. The music was my teacher. Going through that process with my teacher so that I could help and teach other people and understand the process. And now I have my mission.
Okay. All right. Hey, you know what? I love it. Look, it all makes sense to me, and I'm just going to say, to even enter a pageant, and let me just say, just entering the pageant for the sake of it, it's not even, look, I just want to sing. Is there a talent competition in here? Yes, no, yes. Okay, please sign me up. Because I'm a man. I'm just letting y'all know, y'all gonna come in second. I'm gonna come in first because it's about me. I know the talent that I have, and here it is. Okay. No, I think that's wonderful. And you hit on something that I'm going to talk about here in a second as well. I think you're looking at my notes. But anyway, mental health. We don't talk. Look, first and foremost, is big. All right. Yeah. It's big in the media. It's just big right now. It's always been in the forefront, but now it's really in the forefront for me to see. And, across the board, it can affect you in many different ways. But now, from your standpoint, you're just talking about a societal, standpoint. And true, let's just keep it real. Like, we all fall for the okie doke at some point, because, hey, all right, well, I think this is the way to, to do whatever it is I need to do because this is the more traditional way. Mm-hmm. Little do you know that you're being a trailblazer, like, I don't really need to do this the traditional way. I'm having fun at what I'm doing, but you live and learn, and now you done made it back, and now you're here, as you said, to be an advocate for those who want to get into the industry and do what it is that they, so passionately want to do, which is perform, sing, rap, whatever it is you do. So, All right. So let me just ask this question to you. How can the music industry, or what can the music industry do a little bit more of, or not even a little bit, but more of, just to protect the mental health of artists? Because the list goes on and on. Like, there's a very long list of those artists, of artists just having like breakdowns in the music industry alone. We're not even talking about actors, actresses, or, people who are behind the scenes. We're just talking about artists at this point. So what can the industry do more of to protect the mental health of artists?
That's a great question. I think it starts with just talking about it more, right? Mm-hmm. And not allowing it to consistently sit as a taboo conversation. In the music community, there are certain topics of conversation that just simply don't happen enough. Like, mental health is one, finances are another, right? We don't talk about it until it's a problem. Another one would be the safety of women and young men. Right. Mm-hmm. And I just wrote a book about that, and it's going to be out July 13th, where I'm talking about this taboo conversation. Right. And I think it starts with not waiting till it becomes an issue, but talking about it now. Mental health. And here's the thing. People who are born with gifts think different. Right. We're our brains are constantly thinking. We're in our heads. We see things for what they really are, oftentimes, not what we're told that they are. We see the truth right in front of us, and we're living oftentimes. And that's why you have people who are such great storytellers or such songwriters, because they see things that most people cannot see. They see past the surface. Just imagine living your life with that type of brain all day long. I mean, it'll drive you crazy. You know what I mean? But I think it starts with just conversation, taking off that taboo layer, because I suffered in silence with depression. I was ashamed, even though you could read it all over me, it wasn't something I was comfortable talking about. And it took me time to even understand why I was suffering with depression. People who are talented and have gifts, it's a light. And so, of course, you're going to have things that are going to challenge that light. And that's why it's so important to know who you are as an artist and as someone who's gifted, so that you can build a layer of healthy protection around that gift and that light, so that you're not easily, you're going to be targeted, but easily capable of being pulled in a direction that's going to cause mental imbalance and things like that, right? You've got to do things to keep yourself healthy, because you're kind of like under attack, different things all things are attracted to light, right? You've got things that are really great and healthy for you, and then you got things that are not so. And so you got to figure out how to balance that. And that's why it's so important to understand the power of your gift.
Well, as well. So, and I think sometimes this can be a slippery slope, but that's why sometimes you have parents advocate for, children who are artists as well. But if the parent doesn't really know, that side of the, business or what have you, that can be a slippery slope as well. And you can still have the artist being taken advantage of.
I know, you see me kind of lean back when I was like, yes, because I can relate to that. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because the second book that I'm working on right now, I haven't got the first one out yet, but I got another one coming, and it's a children's book, and it's a family read for parents to understand how they can support and advocate for their gifted children. For that very reason, because like you said, parents, they have these talented children, and they don't understand the children. They don't understand how to support them correctly, or, we're all trying to figure out life all together, but, right. Or what the child is actually holding, and so you're absolutely correct. Exactly.
Well, and the reason why that came to mind, I'm thinking about a guest I had on the show a while back, and just the story he told about how his mental health and, stuff that led to drugs and things of that nature in the music industry, got into the music industry at a very young age, and was around all of these artists or what have you that he somewhat looked up to and wanted to fit in, but really didn't have anyone in his ear like, hey, you know what? I mean, it's cool to admire, but man, you don't want to get involved in this. You don't want to get involved in that. You don't want to get involved in this. And that led to a spiral downward, and, just the story he told, I was like, well, yeah. And I can see that happening because it happens all the time. And not just in the hip hop community or what have you, in the music industry, period. You have people who get in and they have no one to advocate for them. And as you said, they are the light. And some people want to jump on that light quick. They already see what it is. Like, oh, you know what? Let me get on this quick before anybody says something to, this person about what it is that they have and who it is that they are.
Absolutely.
And
you nailed it. Yeah. You nailed it. There are people who see that light and want to help that light, lift that light up. And there's people out there who want to see that light and they want to destroy it. Music is, it is a very spiritual space, like just that internal. And I think also as artists, it's important to acknowledge that whatever, someone wants to acknowledge it, however they want to acknowledge it for themselves, but you cannot walk through this journey without acknowledging it, because it exists. And that's where I think we can find ourselves in unique situations if we're not really like fully truthful with ourselves in that right, so it's a spiritual walk.
So now, Miss Latoya Cooper, if people want to get in contact with you, they want your services, or just want to talk about the industry. Hey, I seen you on Word with Ty Brownlow. I loved everything you were saying. I want to know more. How can people get in contact with you?
Yes. So the best way to get in contact with me is at contact. You can email me at contact@musicmeetstheboardroom.com. You can also join me every Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook for 10-minute CEO. I'm there for 10 minutes. So during your lunch break at work, tune in, get these gems that I'm dropping every Tuesday, and you can ask your questions and things like that. They can also just go to musicmeetstheboardroom.com and set up a session with me if they want to work with me directly and ready to level up to the next level and get really, really serious about what they do.
Okay. All right. Look here, 10-minute CEO, y'all. She's only giving y'all 10 minutes, and she's dropping gems. Then she dropping the mic. She out. Russell Simmons. God bless. Good night. Boom.
Yes. Yes. And then if I may share, like I said before, I have a book coming out July 13th, and it's called Simple Methods, Smarter Decisions, a safety resource for female recording artists. And we talk about a lot of things we talk about today, the power of your gift. We talk about narcissism and all that stuff in the business. We talk about minding your business, understanding your business. We talk about dating and music. And we even talk about the male groupie in this book. Okay? Because the ladies need to know about the male groupie. All right? I know we need a whole nother podcast for this conversation.
Hold on. Don't be giving up.
Yes. Yes.
Say
We
it ain't
have
so,
a couple.
Latoya. Say it ain't so.
It is true. It is so true. Let me tell you, ladies out here in this game, these male groupies be side swiping them. They don't be ready. They don't know what they up for. So in this book, I spilled the tea.
And look, and these are the words I used earlier. Corporate, intellectual property, financial, okay? She's trying to show you all aspects, okay? And show you how to get paid at the same time. Okay? I don't have to wait. That's what she is. All right. So I've come to the very last question, the question that my show is known for, so I will present it to you. Miss Latoya Cooper, what is the one word that best describes you and why?
Energy. I'm an Aries, so that just kind of comes with the territory.
Okay.
And also, for me, it is so important that no matter what happens in life, that I don't allow anything to steal that energy, that youthful light and energy within me. I just am determined to hold on to that no matter what happens, and to carry a smile no matter what happens in my life.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to use leader. And since you are Aries, you all know all about leading. So trust me, I know.
Yeah, we're stubborn.
Yes. But, you know, in a good way sometimes, most of the time in a good way. And, you know, that quality comes through in the end because, as you said, you know, you are that light, and it is that energy that like gives and breathes and, you know, gives light to everything around it, you know, but also at the same time, you are that leader because while you're giving, you know, life and, you know, to everything around you, you're also leading those who have, you know, who are to come behind you as well into a more better situation than the situation that, you know, you yourself are in or were in. So there you go. All right.
Yes. Thank you.
Mic drop. Boom. There you go. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Word with Ty Brownlow. I am your host, Ty Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless. No story is worthless. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Word with Ty Brownlow. Or you can just go to my website, tybrownlow.com. Get this wonderful interview, plus other great interviews. Miss Latoya Cooper, I have enjoyed you very much so.
Thank you so much, Ty. Thank you so much, everybody. And a wonderful platform. I love what you're doing, and I'm excited to see what the future brings for you.
Oh, thank you. All right, everybody. We out. Peace.